Well, welcome everyone. This is the Dare to Be Great, Dare to Be You podcast. My name is Sean Langwell and I am your host. And you're in for a real treat today, but I'm going to keep you at bay just for a minute while I tell you what this show is all about. See, if you like honest, vulnerable, and real stories about what it takes to not only become great, but self-confident and bold enough to be yourself, then this show is for you. Each of my guests started out as ordinary people like you and me, but have accomplished extraordinary things in their lives to be considered great masters or experts at what they have been called to do. Join me each episode for inspiring, encouraging, and meaningful conversations with diverse people from all walks of life and industry. Leaders and brave individuals who offer unique insights into the fields of arts, entertainment, business, finance, technology, healthcare, sports, psychology, recovery, self-improvement, personal growth, and so much more. Whether you are in the same fields as my guests or not, I guarantee you will walk away from each episode feeling better about yourself and inspired to take the next bold step toward your own goals and aspirations. Your life will improve if you dare to be great and dare to be you. And folks, I have a very special guest today. He's a local business owner and he's got a great, rich history. Say hi, John. John Crowley from Aqus Café.
Nice to be here, Sean. Really appreciate this, and thank you.
Oh, I felt compelled to reach out to you to do this because of so much stuff that you're already doing in the wonderful North Bay and in particular Petaluma. Before we dive into that, let's give the listeners and viewers, because this will be out on YouTube, a little taste of what you and I talked about a couple weeks ago at the cafe. Just high level where you came from, because you got a rich background before you even became a business owner.
Indeed. Originally grew up in Ireland, Dublin, and as typical back up until fairly recently, you grew up, you got educated, and you left Ireland. And that's what I did back in the 80s. Spent a couple of years in Germany. I was a software developer. I'd spent a lot of time writing Unix systems programming, C++, plus plus, and all that kind of stuff, and reservation systems from cruise lines to airlines to hotels. That was I guess, my first career, ending up in the United States in the early 90s, again with software development, cruise lines and airlines, and but realized there was something. It wasn't what I really wanted to be doing, and picked up this wonderful book called Bowling Alone by Robert Putnam about the demise of social capital and the fact that we don't know each other anymore. We're not part of clubs and churches and community. We've kind of regressed back into our own homes, and the lack of social cohesion and civic engagement was troubling. And it was also kind of personal as well. So when you arrive in, and I always kind of tell the story in Ireland, if you move community, the first thing you do is you go down the local pub and you'll meet everybody. You'll meet your neighbors, but you also meet the teachers and the mayor and everybody there. And I didn't find that when I came to the United States. And so it was a personal thing for me. It was kind of like, how do you build a friend group? How do you find the people that you want to hang out with? Um,
What was the name of the book again? I don't want people to miss that.
Yeah, it was called Bowling Alone by
Bowling Alone.
Robert Putnam, and it was
Okay.
a sociological study of social capital, and he defined social capital as kind of the value that is intrinsic in trusted relationships between individuals and organizations within a community.
Perfect. So you came out here, you came from Ireland, you're coming from the pubs where this is you, and I'm kind of reiterating what you started too with our conversation, where this was just normal. It was drinking age is different there. People would, that was the community, that was the entertainment. You didn't have Netflix and all this other stuff. People actually got together and hang out and got to know each other, right?
Exactly. Pub is short for public house, and
Okay.
it's essentially a community center that sells beer and wine and food. And it has all ages, all demographics, all everything just under one roof. And I didn't find that. In America, great bars and great restaurants, But that idea of a community center where you could, grandma could have a glass of sherry, I could have a beer, and my kid could have a soda, uh, didn't really exist and doesn't exist in the United States as a kind of an institution. All over Ireland. I mean, anybody who's been to England or Ireland comes back with wonderful stories of how wonderful the pubs were and how everybody was made feel welcome. And then they go back to the normal American kind of way of existence, which is unfortunately not that. But I think it's becoming. I think we're on the. I guess we're on the fence at the moment. We're either going to be ending up as a more isolated society in general,
Mhm.
or we're going to do something about it because I think it has gotten to a level where we are socially, and certainly our younger people, younger and older people. I think people in the middle, generally they'll have jobs and can hang out with people in work, but even that's becoming more and more isolated. You can get your work delivered from home. There's remote working, so
Yeah, and during the
see anybody.
yeah, and during the pandemic, we got accustomed to it. We had to, and it changed the dynamic where it actually went in the other direction, where people are mandated and or forced for health reasons to not spread the pandemic to be more separate. And now there's this, what I've seen too, is there's this wave where it kind of goes back the other way, but it also changed the paradigm a little bit where it became much more easy to do things like we're doing here. You and I could be sitting in the pub right now doing or at the cafe doing this, but we want to have this opportunity to not have the distractions. But going back to that, people are still isolated. There's a lot of loneliness that happened, and I want you to pick it up on that, and also talk briefly about the transition that happened that you saw when you came out here, because Starbucks started a long time ago, and the coffee shop vibe is trying to replicate that to a certain extent, but it's not what you and I talked about at Aquas, where it was different. There's a social connectivity that happens when people come together in the pub environment in Ireland, right?
Very much so, and that's what I've tried to replicate here, and in indeed kind of gone beyond what the regular pub in Ireland is. And so I grew up in a pub, and it was my grandfather's pub in suburbs of Dublin, became my father's and then my brother's. And what I saw there was a community gathering space for everybody to come and meet. And what we've done here at Aqus Café, let me actually go back a little bit further
Sure.
to what my kind of my first escapades into community building were, was when I got here. It was, as I mentioned, kind of how do you build a friend group? And typically it's through, you grow up, you go to school, you find your friends there, you go to college, you grow up in the community, you're part of various different organizations, and that's where your friend group uh, emanates or emerges from. But somebody who, like myself, moved to the United States, moved to Petaluma, wonderful town. But it was kind of, well, how do you make friends? So in Ireland, you go down the local pub, as I said, and you meet everybody. This didn't happen so much here. So I created this thing called the social crawl, which
The
was
social crawl.
the social crawl. Back then we called it the Petaluma Pub Crawl.
Okay.
We're now rebranding it as the social crawl, and it was a very nice way. It was an event that happened maybe 5 times a year. I'd send an itinerary out. This is kind of the biggest, it must have been about 25, 30 years ago, beginning of the internet. Not many people had email addresses, but enough. And I was, still in the tech world back then, so I access to email. But this pub crawl idea was for simple way to connect people. So I'd send an itinerary out once every 2 or 3 months, and it would include kind of 4 stops. So we'd go to Volpe's at 7 o'clock, and Graziano's at 8 o'clock, and some other place at 9 o'clock. And the theme of the evening was bring a book that changed your life. And so it,
Bring a book to change your life.
yeah.
Okay.
And so the idea behind these themes, and each one had a different theme, although the bring a book to change your life theme was something that I used many times because it's such a wonderful theme. And it also kind of sets the stage for informing people that it's not a drink fest. This is the
Right.
purpose of this is to connect with people. And if I tell you what book changed my life, you'll soon know if you want to have another conversation with me. And it works really well. So the whole evening, if you kind of think about it, is being interviewed and interviewing people for
Mhm.
possible friendship. and it just worked really, really well for, especially for people who weren't raised in Petaluma, who came from San Francisco, New York, or overseas. How do you connect with other people? How do you find out who do you want to hang out with? And so this event was something that we ran for probably about 10 years before I opened the cafe. I stopped it as I was opening the cafe, or maybe a little bit after I opened the cafe, because I kind of thought that energy had found its home,
Hmm.
which was Aqus Café. And that is modeled again after my grandfather's and father's pub, but also with a slice of Californian coffee shops thrown in as well, because it really has to serve everything and all.
Let me interrupt you there
Yeah.
because that you want I know what you're talking about, but just for the listeners, what do you mean with that intentional, purposeful
Yeah.
business strategy where it was kind of a blend between a coffee shop and a pub?
Yeah. So I kind of started the coffee shop out with Robert Putnam's book in the back of my head. Is how do you build a place that serves as a community gathering place so that people can enter into conversations and build possible friendships. And
Hmm.
so we kind of took the best parts of a California coffee shop, which is great, great, great coffee, great lattes, great food, and also have alcohol there as well, but it's not prominent. We have Guinness on tap. We've got plenty of beer and wines, um, and but it's not the most prominent thing. The most prominent thing I'd say in the cafe is the community table. It's a
Right.
table that is in the center of our cafe. It could fit about 9 people around it, and it is extendable. And sometimes we have 50 people around it, depending on what
And
we do.
that's by design when you built that. And for folks who haven't been there, we'll give them the address and stuff later, but it's intentional. I'm assuming that you put it where you did, that you can't not go from the door to pass by the community table, correct?
Exactly. So it is designed so as you walk into the cafe, and it's called Aqus Café, AQUS, aquascafe.com. Have a look at it. It's one of our mottos, or should I say, the things that we live by, is a quote by W.B. Yeats. It says, "There are no strangers here, just friends you haven't met yet."
Yes.
That really is how we operate and how we model the things. So, for example, when you walk into the cafe, you'll see there's a bench all the way around the edge of the cafe, with obviously tables and chairs, but the bench kind of connects people, even though they don't know they're being connected. You're sharing something with a stranger, possibly, and maybe you put your coat on the bench between you, and you enter into a conversation. Small little things like that are how we've kind of looked at what connects people. How do you order your food? Well, you stand in line and you order your food, and hopefully you enter into a conversation with somebody either in front or behind you. And that happens. That happens all the time. And so it really has become a very much a local, a locals coffee shop, cafe, community center. And recently we've developed some new ways of connecting people. So prior to COVID, we had music 5 nights a week.
Okay.
Love music. Music is great for gathering people together. Um, and some music works well in the cafe. But what I noticed is that the music, although it does gather people together, it doesn't, it sometimes hinders conversations.
Hmm.
So after COVID, I realized COVID is still affecting society, and I don't know whether we'll ever recover from it. I know it's had a huge impact on us, and what I really kind of thought is, yes, we do need to connect, uh, but more intentionally have conversations around things that interest people. It doesn't really matter what they are. So we came up with this idea after COVID of having community dinners, and we'd invite everybody who basically fill in the blank is a retired teacher or is a interested in walking a Camino or speaks Italian or is a blacksmith and metalworker. It doesn't really matter what the subject matter is. It provides a facility and a way for people to meet other people in their community. In our Petaluma is the size of a
Hmm.
town of about 60,000 people. And you can kind of say, well, that's probably a lot of retired teachers in there. Well, why don't they all just meet around one table and have a conversation and see if there's any there? And it's worked extremely well. We've had community dinners of up to 50 people.
My goodness.
Some of them are smaller ones, and it's actually interesting that the smaller ones are in a way quite valuable. So, for example, we've had community dinners around Greek speakers. Now, there's not that many Greek speakers in town, you would think, and for those Greek speakers to show up and find other Greek speakers in town, no, you know, they've lived in Petaluma for 20 years and never known the other Greek speaker existed in town. And so those
Well,
kinds of wonderful serendipitous things happen, and maybe friendships happen out of those. In fact, I know friendships do that, and that's the whole point of it.
and that's interesting too, because there we are separate. And when you come in, yes, there's dating sites out there, there's social media, and it's still in many respects, it's not what you're doing. You're actually finding and inviting people that are more natural to want to find other people that have similar backgrounds and or learn from others with the readers dinners where it can be a mix. It doesn't have to be just blacksmiths because that would be kind of how many blacksmiths are there in town, right? You
Well,
only have a couple people show up, maybe.
strangely enough, we had
Maybe. I don't
20
know, but
something people around the
it
tables.
just depends. But
Exactly.
this is part of the purpose. The reason I'm bringing this up is that was an intentional reason why I have this long-winded people of all walks and background and industry is I'm trying to do the same thing here on a not as a connective level, but as a way of people being able to connect. And just a quick aside, it's already happening. I mean, I have these little pockets of folks that are in the coaching space and all the various elements, and they're starting to network outside of here. And I want to come back to you on that because that's the beauty of what you provided with this space that is just a fun, low-key, engaging space here in Petaluma down near the river. And you're doing similar things that I'm doing with this podcast, taking it out from Aquas into the community and other
Yes.
events. And I want to finish your thoughts about the cafe and the philosophy, but I want to go out there too, because there's a lot of cool stuff that I've participated in that's mind blowing if anybody hasn't had a chance to participate.
So I'll back up just a little bit as well because the cafe actually next year the cafe is going to be 20 years old.
Oh, that's great.
I know it's kind of where did that 20 years go? A lot of good stuff happened. Opened 2006. 2000 about 10 years into that, we opened Aqus Community Foundation. So there's Aqus Café, which is a regular for-profit business, and in parallel there's the Aqus Community Foundation, which is a 501(c)(3). The mission behind that is to build community and build social capital. And one of the ways, we didn't do it actually in many ways. One of the ways that we came up with was what we've developed, we call them the Aquas gatherings, which is, again, you take any interest group, and I think, Sean, maybe you attended our written word gathering, I think.
That's what it was. I couldn't remember the name, but I blew me away. I've never been to a gathering like that
Uh-huh.
ever in my entire life. And just a quick aside and finish the part, but I'm part of the Redwood Writers community, as you know, and we've had, a coffee with the pres. My wife's the president of that. And we did it at your cafe, and it was just, I know firsthand what this feels like to have people come and sit at the community table there. But then you do this other event down at the Petaluma Arts Center, and there's a whole bunch of people from Redwood Writers and other people that I had seen around town, and I'm like, yeah, you pick it up because you had this run dialed that I was like, how did he pull this off?
Thank you, thank you. Um, so the need for people to gather together, what changes people's lives are other people.
Exactly.
And if you don't meet other people, your life won't change. So this idea was something that we've developed over the time. We started it at Aquas Cafe. We picked something up. I think we started it with a friend of mine, and we were gathering all the therapists in town. And therapists typically have relationships with all their clients, but they might not know the other therapists in town as much. And so we started this thing, must have been about 10 years ago, called it Drinks with Shrinks, and we gathered everybody in town who was a
Wait,
therapist.
repeat that because I don't want people to miss this. I love this.
I know.
This name is so clever.
A
What's it
fun
called?
little thing called it Drinks with Shrinks.
Drinks with Shrinks.
Exactly. And it was nothing more really than getting all the therapists in town to get to know each other.
Oh, I love it.
And I think, as I saw people kind of entering into the space, they were kind of looking around. Wow, there's that many other therapists in town. And this is when we
Right.
got to the cafe, and that was only 30 people. I think last drinks with drinks we had was close to about 100 people, maybe more. Um, People really want to connect. And so we've developed over the years this structure that helps people maximize. So it's basically a 2 hour window broken into about four parts. The first part is speed networking, which is
Hmm.
a wonderful way of getting everybody involved. And I always kind of thought about these mixers, these typical mixers where you're supposed to, a lot of people kind of hang around the peanuts hoping to have a conversation with somebody. No, I mean, if you're there to mix with people, then we make sure that you have as many conversations as possible. So it is definitely a facilitated event. I'll get on the microphone and ask everybody to gather to groups of three people, two of whom you have never met before. Person with the darkest eyes starts, and you've got a minute and 30 seconds to tell the other two people who you are and why you are, why you're in that space. And then you're suddenly realizing that you're talking to people just like you. You're talking to somebody who is doing the same job as you or has exactly the same interests.
Hmm.
And that's the first section of the Aquas gathering. Second section is hosted conversations. So the first part is you've had really fast minute and 30 seconds. You're basically your elevator pitch.
Hmm.
Um, and then the second part is more in-depth conversations. So around the room we might have 5 or 10 groups of chairs with in this group we're going to be talking about this subject, all germane to the gathering.
Hmm.
So I think that you're the one that you went to the written word one. We had, for example, we had how to get your book published, the nuts and bolts of marketing, the various different
Sure.
topics that you get into longer conversations with other people, and we'll have a subject matter expert there to possibly guide the conversation. So that's kind of maximizing, and we do drinks with shrinks for therapists. We do the written word for writers. And I mean, you could be involved in the whole writing business. You could be a book jacket designer. You could be a paper manufacturer. You could be whatever it is that's germane to the evening.
And
We
let
do
me let me
nonprofit.
interject something real quick there though,
Yes,
because there's a part here what you just described, and this is what really, I mean, I've been in sales and marketing for most of my career, and I have to go do these mixers, and I have my own, things that came up in the early part of my career. And the thing that I noticed, even at this stage of my career and doing what I'm doing, is there's a lot of introverted people out there. There's a lot of lonely people,
yeah.
in a particular artist community, i.e. writers. What's it called again? Writers, the
The
written
written
word
word.
for writers, written word for writers
Yeah,
is it without being confrontational, it put the writers who may or may not be introverted into a situation where it was safe for them to have uncomfortable conversations with people. And because it was so short and rapid fire and they weren't alone, I watched the entire room of people. I know some people there that were super introverted and they're going like this. It's beautiful. So if you don't, uh, for those who are listening, follow John because what he's doing in this community and spreading around throughout the North Bay is phenomenal. If you want to find a way to connect with people who are like you or different than you, it's really, really cool, John. I mean, it just
thank you.
is.
You mentioned the introverts. Pretty much every single time we do one of these events, two or three self-described introverts will come up to me after the event and thank me because it levels the playing field.
Hmm.
Those your typical mixers, it's the extroverts who mainly get what they're looking for out of these things. But this, as I say, levels the playing field so that everybody is able to and is gently nurtured or nudged into this speed networking that sounds a little terrifying, but it's not because you're talking to exactly the same kind of people. You have the same interests, you have the same career, you have the same reason for being there.
Hmm.
So it's the level of conversation is it's actually difficult. When we're trying to end that section, it's difficult to get people to shut up.
Well, in that it's an what would be called a live room in the music industry. It's loud, and even if there are some people, what happened, it's almost like a pub environment where it's like it starts here, and then after people get rolling, you can hear the rumble almost as if they've been in the pub for a couple hours having
Yes.
a few pints, and the level noise level goes up.
yeah.
It was phenomenal from a psychological and a human perspective. I was fascinated by it. It's
Thank you.
magical
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, yeah, and it's working and it's timely and it's we need this now really more than ever. And so we do nonprofit world, we do film and video, we do artists, we do creatives, we do writers, and we're also kind of looking at other professions. We're going to get all the architects and landscape architects together in one room. So we use the cafe as a sandbox for experimentation.
I like that.
Are there enough people in a certain genre? The cafe can only hold probably a maximum of 50 people. Once it gets kind of beyond that, then we go and rent space and
Hmm.
have the bigger Aqus gathering. Um, and it really is, it's one of those kind of things that changes people's lives. As I mentioned, what changes people's lives is other people. And this really works very well.
And the thing that I noticed too, without making this about me, but there's a lot of experiment. I call myself an introverted extrovert. I think creatively. I need to have my own private space. I can't handle a whole lot of noise around me. But being in sales, I've become a little bit more extroverted, and I've had to walk through my own shyness, even in sales and early careers when I did this stuff. And that's where the point I was going to make about the writers event that you had at the Petaluma Arts Center, um, was that even though I do this for my job, I didn't know what to expect, and I'm being Mr. Shy Guy, and I was like, okay, just stop, stop. So it doesn't matter. The point I'm trying to make is it doesn't matter where you're at the spectrum is show up and learn and get to learn and grow from other people because you're absolutely right. If we're trying to do this all reading a book or watching a video, it's not the same. The dynamics don't make the change that you want if you're just doing it in your own head is the point I'm trying to make. And you just said that.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, Speaking of which, to kind of segue over to something else that you have coming up, finish your thought, but you've got this joiners thing, and I want to hear more about that too.
Interesting. You describe yourself similar to the way I describe myself as an extroverted introvert, and it was one of those things that as you were just introducing me at the beginning, it reminded me. It took me back to a place probably 25, 30 years ago when I was that computer programmer, and a lot more of my introverted side was dominant.
Hmm.
Um, for a couple of reasons. One of the reasons was I could never stand up and speak in public.
Yeah.
And
Now look at you.
and now look at you can't shut me up. Exactly. I know. And so what I did that back then, it's 30 years ago, I joined Petaluma Toastmasters.
Ah,
And
Toast of Petaluma.
Toast to Petaluma.
I
Yeah.
was president of the club for a year, I don't know, a term. That was, yeah, go ahead.
Oh wow. But it's kind of one of those things that I knew that if I did not address this part of me, part of my personality that was much more introverted, much shyer than I wanted to be.
Mhm.
That it was going to have a lasting effect on my personal life and also my business career and other extracurricular activities that I wanted to do, but I was afraid to do them because I couldn't speak. And
Yeah.
so going to Toastmasters was, I recommend it for everybody. It should be part of school curriculum. And if not, you can thank God it's there because
Mm.
you can then go back, join it. They're a great, wonderful group of people. They just celebrated their 25th year anniversary last year.
Yeah. Did you go
Or-
to that? I wasn't able to make it. I had
yeah,
something else going on.
yeah, same with me. But
Mm.
anybody out there, just if public speaking is a thing, and it is a thing for 99% of the population,
Yeah.
go join Toastmasters and it'll help you. And
Yeah.
so anyway, just wanted to kind of note that
No,
uh,
and this is why I wanted to have this conversation with you because I don't know. And sometimes when we start these conversations, I don't know exactly where they're going to go. But I can't keep up. I honestly, we could probably talk for 2.5 hours, but out of respect for your time and mine and our listeners, I don't want to go too much longer other than to say that you've got a lot of stuff lined up and I want to have ample time for you to talk about that and then let people know where you're at in the cafe because there's always stuff going on. You've got multiple events going on all the time. And go ahead and do the shameless self-promotion here. You just said you're no longer an introvert. The mic's in your hands, John.
Thank you, thank you. Well, what we're doing now, I mean, the cafe is doing very well. People are recognizing the need for connecting with people. And so a couple of years ago, I was thinking, right now, this kind of societally speaking, there's a couple of kind of big problems. One of it is loneliness,
Hmm.
affecting kind of our generation. I'm in my 60s, and also affecting the younger generation, kids in their teens and early 20s. That's kind of one societal issue. The other one is political divides, how we treat each other, how we disrespect each other, how you know, we used to, and I talk about it that quite a lot these days, that when society in general was a lot more part of civically engaged, either by
Hmm.
being part of the Rotary or going to church or knowing all your neighbors or those kinds of things. And when we stopped doing that as a society, we lost a lot. We lost a lot of social capital and
Hmm.
basically trust in your community. So there's kind of one of these things that kind of was troubled about, and well, then what do you do about it? And so you got these two things, loneliness and the social divisions. A lot of it emanates from the same point, same
Hmm.
place, and that place being our disconnection, our human. We're not as connected as we used to be, and not as connected as we want to be either. But there's this inertia of kind of, well, what do we do to reconnect? Um, and so I came up with this idea of kind of, well, why not just join something? There's many older organizations and some newer organizations out there that are looking for members. And so we came up with this
Absolutely.
thing. It just join something,
Hmm.
and it's a campaign to encourage people to join a local organization, be it a choir or a Rotary, or I've joined some wonderful things. I just joined the Moose Lodge, Petaluma Moose Lodge here.
Oh my gosh.
And but I started this thing about 2 years ago and kind of committed myself to joining one membership organization per year until 2030. So I'm already got four membership organizations under my belt, and
I'm gonna interrupt you just for a second again because you get to 10 or whenever you start this.
yeah.
What, I'm on the Redwood Writers Board for the last, my gosh, 10 years. And I was on Toast Petaluma at the same time. And it's like, I don't know, if you're in a position of kind of helping to drive the organization and the vision and all that, it can be daunting, but from a joining perspective, it's incredibly important, right?
Yes, and some of these organizations I've joined and said that I can help be part of their membership, uh, chair the membership department or committee, um, because that's what I do that very well of kind of showing people the possibilities
Hmm.
of what would lead to or what comes out of being part of something. So I know you were mentioning your board position on the Redwood Riders does take a lot of time.
Right,
And I don't have an awful lot of time.
right.
And certainly by the time I get to 10, I'll have
I'm
even
not trying to diminish your goal and your dream because
less.
you've already proven to me just from our brief time that we've already met here in an hour, at the cafe. It's like you're doing it. You make a decision, you go do it. A lot of people don't do that. That's a whole separate conversation for a different day. But it's a worthy and a realistic goal so that you can join some. Everybody can join one thing a year, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, be it a choir. I mean, one of the most important clubs to join is your local street. It's not an official club,
Uh-huh.
but a couple of years ago, I was a co-founder on this organization called Cool Petaluma, COOL Petaluma, and it's a climate action-based organization that gathers people block by block to create some action around climate. And so, if you were to volunteer with Cool Petaluma as a block leader, we would help you, the organization would help you and your 5 or 10 nearest neighbors, in some cases, meet each other for the first time.
Yeah.
we don't know each other. We don't
You
know.
don't.
And the example that I point out to is here in Santa Rosa. A few years ago, we had a terrible fire, and a lot of pets died because if the owner was away or out of town or even 10 miles away, the fire happened so quickly that people didn't know the telephone numbers of their neighbors to phone them up to say, hey, can I break a door down and let your dog out? So unfortunately, those kinds of things, that's kind of a sad example. But through Cool Petaluma and this idea of gathering once a month to address certain things, and the first gathering is about emergency preparedness. At least share your telephone number with your neighbors. The other four have to do with lowering your carbon footprint by looking at various resources like electricity, water, consumables, those kinds of things. And by the end of that 5 months, you really kind of connected with your neighbors, and that's kind of your most important, your most nearby club is your street. And you can go from there out. You can join the Moose Lodge or the Danish Soldier. I joined the Danish Soldiers Club recently.
You told me about it.
I
I've
know.
never even heard of the Danish Soldiers
No,
Club.
I don't think I've never met it, and it's a fantastic facility. The south end of Petaluma. It looks like Solvang in Southern California.
Oh, I
Obviously, a
love
much
that
smaller
place.
version, but
This
but
time of the year, it's incredibly special. The Christmas time down there.
oh
Oh my
yes,
goodness.
yeah, I
Yeah.
can imagine with Chris Kindle. But there are, and I've done a lot of research on local organizations, and you've got some wonderful gems, and especially wonderful gems with fantastic facilities that otherwise are, they're reserved for the membership. And
Yeah.
so have access to some quite unusual buildings and organizations in town here. And, call it a social experiment, call it whatever you want, but it is certainly making a difference in my life. I watch a lot less television than I did before, just don't have time.
Yeah, I
What
can
do you want?
imagine so.
Exactly.
And this is what's happening here too, and this is one of the indirect benefits, or you call it direct benefit, of inviting various guests on the show from all different walks of life. Is there's at some point in the show there's a connection that happens. You're talking about all this with all these different clubs, and it didn't even occur to me. My wife is the communications director for Oakmont Village Association up in Santa Rosa,
Oh,
and she's responsible for coordinating all the multitudes of various clubs up there. So, and she shares some of this with me. It's like, oh my gosh, they've got everything from Poets Society to the Vets Club. I mean, you name it. And what you're doing here, John, there are a lot of people and they just need that. They need almost like permission to say it's okay to join,
yes. Yeah.
or
Yeah.
to have that opportunity publicly mentioned. And one of the things I want to point out to you that's really enlightening to me is this is not a self-serving skin in the game, come down to Aquas. This is a coming from a heart place, from what I hear from you, of really truly wanting to create almost what I call a triple net win situation where everybody benefits,
Yes.
and they come as they are and they walk away different than they were,
Yes.
if you
Yeah.
follow that logic.
Exactly that. Exactly that. Um, Earlier this year, and I want to mention this documentary that helped launch. So we have officially launched this Just Join Something campaign earlier this year, although I'd been kind of doing it with a couple of friends of mine for a couple of years. But earlier this year, we screened the film Join or Die, which is a documentary film made about Robert Putnam and the book Bowling Alone. The film has been out about a little over a year, I think, and it's something that describes the decline of social capital, but also lets us and paints a wonderful picture for society in general to uh, open the opportunities out for people to become members of some of these older organizations. So we screened it 3 times here in Petaluma, had a combined audience of about 350 people.
Oh my gosh.
And um, um, we had at one of the screenings, we had 16 membership organizations. So we had the Rotary Club, three Petaluma Rotary Clubs. We had the Danish Soldiers Club. We had Herman Sons Hall. We had the Mothers Club. We had the Women's Club. We had the Petaluma Garden Club. We had so that people could talk to these membership organizations, then watch the movie about how important being part of something is. Uh, that movie you can actually watch it online on Netflix, but watch it with somebody is my recommendation
Okay.
to your listeners. Um, Out of
Well,
that,
here's a thought because I'm a marketing guy and I know you are too because we talked about that. We don't have time to go into it on the show, but
yeah,
um, it's an opportunity. People have watch parties all the time for
yeah,
other stuff.
yeah,
I'm going back to the days of Dallas when I was in college, and that was a whole different thing. Going back to the pub where we started and in my
yeah,
college, and
yeah.
every single time they said they took a drink on the show, in the frat party, we took a drink. By the end of the show, after an hour show, we were hammered, and it's like, no,
That's
you
a
can't
great
do
idea.
this anymore. So there are other watch parties,
Yeah,
Academy Awards. This
sure.
lens, you already did it with screening the movie, but this is an opportunity for people to have their own little build this out and have a watch party for Bowling Alone,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly that. I know it's been showed in a couple of smaller communities and a couple of churches here in Petaluma, but it really is kind of the galvanizing, call charge and call to action to just join something, and
Okay.
our society depends on it. So out of that, I spoke at that, and it triggered a thought that I remember talking about that joining something is important, but joining something loudly so that other people see you and so that people that you don't even know that are watching you can join. Because as you say, you have giving people permission to join something. A lot more people are would be more willing to join if they see their neighbors join. We are we like to make sure that it's safe. So if you join something, okay, well, maybe I'll join too. That kind of a thing. And that's already happening. I know the Petaluma Garden Club in the past 10 months has gone from about 100 members to just under 170. Um,
70% growth in
Something like
now.
that. Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Wow.
And I know other organizations are experiencing something similar. I know the Herman Sons Hall has had, I think, more members this year than they've had in the past 10 years or so. Um, and I think this message is getting through, um, and people are understanding the value of it. And
Hmm.
there's the kind of well, why not? Let's go see what happens. Why not join the Danish Soldiers Club and see who's there? Have a conversation with somebody you've never met before. And so this kind of addresses two issues. One, the loneliness issue,
Hmm.
but it also addresses the political divide issue. We're all siloing ourselves into um, areas where we'll only talk to you if you believe in these certain
Right.
values. Rarely do we get a chance to be in conversation with somebody that we don't agree with and maybe agree to disagree, or at least be civil to each other and have respect
Hmm.
for each other. I was talking earlier about, the fact that we don't go to church anymore. I guess in the old days, you'd sit in a pew and pray and with people that you on the same bench. You'd sit and pray with people you disagreed with and you knew would be voting uh, completely opposite to you in the next election. Yet you sat in the same pew and you probably shook hands at the end of service,
Hmm.
and there was a certain respect. Now you don't even see these other people, and if
Yeah,
you do, you see them online and you throw rocks at them. And so this idea of getting together and just being physically present with somebody who is different
sure.
is something that I'd like to see everybody get back to, and it's happening here in Petaluma.
It's happening, and you're at the because and you're doing it. You are facilitating this. I don't know if you had this, woke up and had a dream one day and you just said this, or if it was just kind of going back to your roots, as you alluded to at the beginning of the show, of taking what I call a slice of home and bringing it to your new home, which is kind of in a nutshell, kind of a microcosm of what you're talking about. One of my clients, he actually didn't become a client, but it was a potential client that I met with. It's called Suvai down in Santa Fe. This is not a shameless plug for them, but Suvai. And I'm like, well, what does Suvai mean? And he's all, it means home.
Uh-huh.
Basically, it's a
Yeah.
taste of home,
Yeah.
taste of Suvai, because
Yes.
that was his home. And there was no Southern Indian cuisine except for maybe a few places. Most of it's Northern Indian cuisine. And he
Yeah.
started talking about it. So that concept, in a sense of kind of what we're talking about here as we wrap up, is bringing people back to a place where it's safe to be home.
Yes, I like that. But for me, home can be, I look at the cafe as a shared living room. It's my living room, but it's also all my customers' living rooms. And I don't really look at them as customers. I can look at them nearly as kind of you're co-facilitating. This is your space, and people really kind of feel it's like that. I want to mention, something that I think society in general is realizing that something's rather seriously broken.
Hmm.
Now the question is, well, what do we do about it?
Right.
And this is just one solution. It's not the solution, but it's a solution to, or should I say, will help bridge divides, help deal with loneliness. Ultimately, what I'd like to see is 20-year-olds joining these organizations. Um, there is, I kind of half jokingly say that, I'll be dead in 20, 30 years time. But, the teenagers and the 20-year-olds who are growing up with fewer friends, less socialization, um, lonelier than any other generation has ever been before, for them to grow up thinking that that is normal is troubling, to say the very least.
Hmm.
So ultimately, what I would like to see, and I can't ask a 20-year-old to. I can ask, as I said, I was in I'm in my 60s. I can add a 50-year-old, ask a 50-year-old to join an organization. The 20-year-old would look at me as an old man and kind of say, no, I'm not going to
Right,
join
right,
the organization. Um, but ultimately, we really have to start thinking about what is it? What are those teenagers and those 20-year-olds? Uh, how are they going to navigate through adult life in a lonelier, more isolated world?
right.
And the realization, well, is first of all, well, it doesn't have to be a more isolated, lonelier world. It depends on really what we do at the moment. And now I really think we're at a turning point that is important to grasp and is important to take action on. And it could be simple as just walking down your local choir and joining that, or into your local Rotary Club or your local Moose Lodge or whatever it is. Just join something.
Well, and this is also, and it happens too, and I mean, this is not ageism, but I hear exactly what you're talking about. I mean, I've got adult children that are all in their 20s. My son just turned 30, and I watched this, not for them, but I watched with video games and how it's real easy to kind of just pull back, and the dynamics change generationally of how people interact. But when we come back to it, we all do tend to we thrive when we're around other people is basically what you're trying to reinstill. Some of this is getting around other people to thrive and have a quality of life. And I don't know what the answer is, and I don't think it sounds like you're not 100% sure exactly how to do that either. And the challenge that I have is how do we bridge the gap between generations?
Yeah. Yes,
And
exactly.
that's part of it where the separatism happens between Gen Z, millennials, Gen X, et cetera, down to the boomers, and that creates this natural separation. But there are common threads. And when we find these common threads and start to weave it together, we realize that we all really aren't that different. And um, it would just be nice. So, how do people, you've got so many different opportunities here, in particular, um, share how to get a hold of you, but if you had an appeal, and I'm going to give you an opportunity because I do it with all of my guests, if you had an appeal to say what you want to say to the 20-year-old, you have that opportunity right now, and you're going to have a copy of the show that you can use on your website or whatever you want to do.
My call to action is just join something.
Okay.
Join Toastmasters, join Moose Lodge, join Rotary, join something. In your late teens, early 20s, um, you might be surrounded by people who are older than you, but that is a challenge. But take that challenge on. The name of your show is exactly pertain to to exactly what we're talking about. Is take that risk,
Yeah,
go and dare to be great. Um, just do something. We
right.
can't just stay at home. I know there is, with social isolation comes anxiety. And so, I'm not going to go out to this social event because I'm feeling socially anxious. Just push yourself just a little bit to go out to normalize that socialization. Because if we don't, then it builds on itself and festers, and then you become more socially anxious. I mean, everybody has a certain level of social anxiety, even extroverts.
Yep.
Um, and it's just a matter of recognizing that and looking beyond that to the value of connecting with people.
And
So
speaking of
just doing
connecting,
something.
you've got it in here, but what is this the main spot where people can connect to you with? Where would you like people to connect with you so that you can help facilitate some of this and maybe however you do it?
Yeah,
I'm sure that you have a system that helps facilitate and guide people
absolutely.
to where
Yeah,
they need to be, right?
sure. Go to aqus.com, AQUS.com. That's the nonprofit part of my life, and the other part is aquascafe.com. Physically, best way to do it is just come and say, have a cup of coffee.
I
Uh,
love that. You
because
took what I was saying and you brought it right back into, well, it's the truth though, you know?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I challenge anybody to not go in there to have a cup of coffee with a frown on their face and not walk out with a smile on it because
yeah,
that's kind of the energy and that's an oversimplistic
yeah,
um, statement to make, but it's also the truth. There's just something that happens between the people behind the counter to the buzz in the cafe at any time of day.
yeah,
You walk in feeling whatever you're feeling and you walk out smiling. And that's, there was a TV show that I think ran for a whole lot of seasons. I think it was called Cheers. And that's kind of
yes, yeah,
that kind of, where
yeah,
everybody knows your name, right?
yeah. Instead of watching it on television, come and experience it.
Exactly.
The
I don't know
idea
where
is
that came from, but yeah.
exactly, but the idea is, and I see it working. People come into the cafe, and it's pretty much expected that you will have a conversation with the people sitting at the table beside you,
Yeah.
because it is more of a pub. It's not a restaurant. It's not a bar. It's a pub. It's a community center where that's the whole point of the pub is to have uh, to build community and have connections. And how do you build community? Well, one conversation at a time. You
Yep.
know, that's what kind of we look at conversations as threads of the fabric of community.
I'm going to end on that note because that's a really poignant. Say it one more time.
Conversations basically are threads of the fabric of community.
It's so true. Folks, we've been visiting with a very, very special gentleman by the name of John Crowley. He's the owner of Aqus Café and so much more as we've already talked about. And it's been a delight. I really appreciate you taking the time. Don't hesitate to reach out to me, and I'm happy to share whatever you have going on because I believe in what you're doing and in our own ways, if we talked about in person, not on the show, we're running in some parallel lanes here that are about connecting people with each other, but also to the world at large. And more on my perspective, connecting back to ourselves because that inner journey is also an outward journey when you start to get this dynamic going on. And it's this has been a delight, John. Thank you.
Likewise, Sean, I really enjoyed our conversation 2 weeks ago and enjoyed this conversation. And thank you for all you do. I've listened to most of your podcasts, and congratulations. You've got some wonderful people there, and delighted and honored to be added to the list.
Well, thank you, thank you, thank you. And folks, we'll have this episode out probably in a couple weeks. And thank you for tuning in. This has been Dare to Be Great, Dare to Be You. We've been visiting for the last hour with John Crowley, owner of Aquas Cafe. Thanks again, John.
Thank you.